everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Sharon Madar, and most of you know me already. I'm an account executive here at Stratoscale, and I'm very excited to be hosting this session today. Today is our third session, and we'll focus on how to run and scale Kubernetes in an enterprise environment. And we all hope that you're going to find it very helpful. Now, I'm pleased to introduce today's speaker, Liaz Kamper. Liaz has been with Stratoscale for over 5 years and is a member of our cloud architect team, and he knows Symphony inside and out. Now, before I hand the mic over to Liaz, I have a few housekeeping items to cover about this presentation. The first one is today's webinar will take around 20 minutes, followed by questions and answers. The webinar will be available on demand after the live session, and we will send out a recording by email. Now, if you have a question for our speaker, please feel free to send it through the Ask a Question tab. We'll answer any question at the end of the session, and if you don't get your question answered during today's webinar, we will be sure to follow up afterwards. Now, your opinion is very important to us, so during this session, we'll run a poll to learn more about topics you would like for us to cover in the future sessions. So without any further ado, I'd like to kick things off by welcoming Liaz. Liaz, over to you.
Thank you very much, Sharon, and hi everybody. It's great to be here again. It's our third webinar. For the last two ones on networking, we got very good responses. Also, some of you actually approached me personally, and I really like it, and told me some references and some comments and further questions. So same here. Most of you know me, I guess, personally, so feel free to drop me emails, comments, further questions, and we'll answer them on the next webinar, or we can also have another session. So the whole point of this webinar is to go through how we implement Kubernetes in Symphony. Probably most of you know that we had a very nice video, a 3-part video explaining how to run Terraform and Kubernetes together, but that was on 4x. So just to let you know, on 5x, and as you can see here, I'm running 5.1.3. 5.2.1 is coming up real soon in the next couple of weeks. In 5x, we did a major rework on our Kubernetes deployment. Some of it looks same on the UI, but underneath we recoded everything. And when you will work with Kubernetes, for those of you who didn't really have the chance to do it so far, you're going to see that it's much better, performance increased, stability and robustness increased significantly, and we're going to have more and more features coming next. And it's also much easier to integrate with other services. So what we're going to do today, so even if you did watch our current video with Terraform and Kubernetes, I'm going to do everything today slowly from the UI as it is done on 5.1.3, which is basically 5x. So if you see things that you don't have right now in 4x, and just wait patiently until you're upgraded to 5x. And if you haven't been upgraded, so please contact your customer success or Stratoscale support and make sure if you want to work with Kubernetes, get on 5x, because it is a very significant improvement. And also many features are actually missing in 4x. So without further ado, let's go ahead and start our Kubernetes cluster. Many of the things I actually did beforehand. So just to let you know, before you start Kubernetes cluster in any work, we're going to do this. We'll go to engines. First, container engines. It's here. I'm going to press engines. Make sure that you have the Kubernetes engine version enabled, and obviously the Docker registry. Actually, it's not very obvious because it was missing from the previous version. So right now you can start the Docker registry and the Kubernetes. As you can see, we already upgraded this Kubernetes version and allowed you to use 1.11. In the next version, 5.1, you also see 112, and we'll keep on upgrading our Kubernetes offerings as the Kubernetes vanilla is also increasing. So right now I already enabled this Kubernetes, and also for this session, make sure that the load balancer is initialized. We'll use that as well. And if time permit, also I enabled just a simple MySQL 5.7 revision 10, and you'll see in the end of the webinar why I did that. So after everything is enabled, I'll go to region monitoring, okay, and I'll go to settings, so region management, services, and I make sure that for the manager cluster services, I have containers enabled, database enabled, and load balancing. So just to let you know, if the admin doesn't enable that for its users, the containers, load balancing, database, or any of the things that are disabled here will simply not appear in the tenant admin or user screen. So it's very important to do that, else you will be missing this feature and you'll not know what's going on. So now that everything is enabled, let's go to the user. So I'm now in my demo, okay, I'm away from Cloud Admin, and I would like to start my Kubernetes cluster. So again, I've got here containers enabled, so I can see the Kubernetes. So I have Kubernetes cluster, and I have also registries, private registries. So why do we need private registries or repository? And whenever you're doing pulling of images right now, it is somewhere in the web, usually in Docker Hub. So if you just go pull Nginx, it will pull everything from our personal Docker registry. What I'm doing here is that we're able to give you a private registry. First, it will save you a lot of time pulling things from the internet. It will save, obviously, network traffic and delay, and it will also give it the capability to push Docker images directly into this registry. And it's super easy to create one. You just name it. Okay, let me just, actually I don't have to do it right now, so I can just name it. I'm going to delete it. So Dell registry, okay. I'll do Dell registry, and the instance type, it's really shouldn't be that big, so I can go with a large or even a medium. So let's go with a C4 large. Storage pool. So if you guys have multiple storage pools, it's very easy to decide where you want the registry to be on. Obviously, it shouldn't be on a very expensive pool, such as an SSD pool. It could be on slow pool, okay. And then the registry size. It's very important to make sure it's the right size, because right now we cannot extend it. Subnets. All the subnets obviously are based on VPCs. So now I have several VPCs. Okay, so I'm choosing the default one. You can choose Elastic IP. Actually, it's quite important if you want to push. So I would definitely recommend choosing Elastic IP. So again, just to let you know, just doing plus, Elastic IP is created, and it appears here. I will not create it. And most likely you don't want to change 5000, which is the default port. And we allow you to also bring in a certificate. So how do you import a certificate? Certificate is a new feature in Symphony. So you go here to certificates, and you can upload or import whatever certificate you want, and then your registry can be safe. So right now I'm not going to use any registry, so the registry is going to be insecure. So here we go. Now we have our registry. Okay, actually we have two registries. I'm going to use this one. Okay, so I'm going to use test reg 1. As you can see, it has an IP and an Elastic IP. I can download the certificate. I might even extend it. So it will be supported in 5.2.1. And let's go and create our Kubernetes cluster. So again, I'm relying only on default VPC. So the default VPC is already created, obviously, when I created the project. I'm running create. So again, I'm not going to really use it, but you know what, let's create it anyway. Let's do test KS1, okay? I am able to choose whatever Kubernetes version I decided I enabled in the engine. So if I would enable engine 181, you will be seeing here another option for engine 181 in 5.1. You'll also be able to see here 112. For VPC, I've chosen, again, default VPC. Subnet is the default subnet. And again, for Elastic IPs, I can choose whatever Elastic IP I chose before that. Storage pool, same here. This is the default instance type. That's good enough for me. Node count, 1 is not really, won't really fly. So let's go with count 2. 50 is great. And we're going to go finish. Okay, so just like in previous versions, this now will get created with the new version. And on the nodes, it will create instances based on the VPCs and so on. So nothing really special here. So let's see what we did introduce new. First, as you probably noticed, we have access. You can start and stop the cluster. You can deploy an image directly from here. We're going to use that shortly. You can extend the cluster. You can extend the number of nodes. Maybe we'll do that later. Remote connect into the cluster. Again, let's look at that later using proxies. And then I can also add a registry. So right now, it is possible to add all the registries that we're aware of from here. So you can just go click and go OK, and registry will be added. Now, it is very important to add a registry to the Kubernetes, especially when it is insecure, since it will need to tell a Kubernetes use that as insecure, or you can add some external registry for URLs. Okay, so just put in the URL and you're good to go. For this specific Kubernetes, I already added my private registry. So before I'm able to do anything, I actually need to push stuff into the registry. So let's go ahead. I'm just gonna open my shell and let's find out what I have now on my registry. So in case you don't know, you need to go and do curl -k because it's insecure, get on this weird URL, and it will output like which kind of repositories or which images we have on this registry. So we have this MySQL client, I have Nginx, and I have this Tutumelo world. Okay, so now I will be using this private registry to start Tutumelo world, which is my favorite container cluster, in order to go forward. So let's do that. So how can we do that? We're going to go deploy. We're going to use this basic. You can always paste here Kubernetes YAML. We're going to go to deployment. Port is the one that we're exposing, so let's do 80. Just a second, might have a problem with sharing the screen. Okay, good. So port, we're going to do 80. That's the port we want to expose. Environment variable, actually, that's very important in case you want to connect that to DBs, but I can show you that later. So if you want the hello world to know of any DB you have outside, that's actually what's good with Stratoscale, that you can mix or do an holistic version. You can always do DB host equals 1, 2, 3, 4, DB user admin, and so on. Okay, and then the command that will be run, and that's the number of replicas. Okay, so now it's deploying the application. While it's deploying the application, I would like to go. Okay, you can disregard this action failed. I'm gonna resolve that. So while it is deploying, we'll want to hear your opinion and actually some comments using a poll. So let's go with the first poll. So I'm very interested to know what is your current Kubernetes usage. It might be in Stratoscale or not in Stratoscale. So please choose whatever option, and we'll discuss it later. Okay, so thank you very much for this. Actually, most of you are way into the Kubernetes space, so most of you actually developing it, or actually that's on your way to production. That's fine. But that means we're right on the money with putting that webinar. So that's explain why so much of you are so curious about it. So now let's have another poll. So actually, I'm very curious which kind of services do you already connect to Kubernetes? We're going to do load balancer in this webinar, but did you try to already connect it with dbus? Already did it with load balancer? Did you connect it to our private registry, or none of the above? Okay, so the poll shows that most of you actually already connected that to our load balancer, and I'm happy to see that some of you already managed to connect to our dbus and private registry, which is fine. So actually that brings us to which service you would like to hear next in our webinars. So that's going to be the next poll. Would you like to hear about dbus instances, dbus clusters? That's the place to say that in 5.1 we're already going to put clusters of Mongo and Redis. So how are you curious about that? Maybe you want to have like a deeper session on load balancers, or get introduced to our Elastic file systems. Okay, that's actually I must say that dbus and EFS are almost tied, with the dbus clusters ahead. So definitely we're going to do dbus clusters next time. So Redis and Mongo it is, and we have actually very nice demos doing that. So I'm going to share the screen again. Is it on? Great. What you see here is my Kubernetes API, but actually I did something in order to allow you to see that. So let me just refresh the screen and explain what exactly I did. So we heard many of you complaining about the fact that anyone with a Kubernetes API can actually go ahead if we go access the system. So we removed that option completely, and now we have security tokens. So having just the IP will not allow you to connect directly into Kubernetes. We are using security tokens. How can you get hold of security tokens? That's actually quite easy. So I think I have the proxy running here. Let's do that. So I'm going to, if I'm running access, it will say, please download the kubeconfig. Kubeconfig, we're going to exactly explain what it is. That's new, by the way, for 5x. And let's go to Remote Connect. And Remote Connect will allow me to download my token. So it went OK. Now what will happen is that I will move my token. It was downloaded here, file called config, and I'll place it here. Replace it with kube config. There you go, vi kube config. As you can see, it has the security tokens, okay, but the server has only its private IP. So what we do need to do is replace the private IP with public IPs. You can find the public IP here. So it's 10.45.74.165. It goes here. I'm gonna save it. Now I'm gonna run kube CDL proxy, and the proxy is up. Let's go to another shell. If I go config, describe, sorry, list, sorry, get pods, I'm getting all the pods for my running. So my running cluster, because kubectl is pointed into my cluster. So now when I'm running proxy, the proxy will allow me to do the API. So again, access, clicking this. I'm going to skip the token config. This token is already inside because I have it in the kubectl, and there we go. So this is how in 5x you'll be able to easily access your API. Now we're going to quickly expose one of the, I'm going to expose my hello. So I have here my hello. Again, just disregard the error message that you've seen before. It is solved in the latest v5.2.1. So I'm going to do, again, every kubectl that I will run will point to that cluster. So I'm going to go kubectl expose deployment my hello. I'm going to go type, very important, node port. This is actually the only type that we now support. And the name will be myhello1, no, actually myhello service. And it's exposed. Great. I'm going to go kube cdl get services. As you can see, myhello service is exposed here. 327.52 is exposed to 327.52. Great. So now what we need to do is connect a load balancer, and then we can see that service coming out. So let's go back to the UI. Again, if I go here to deployments, I'll be able to see my hello. the port, let's do it 8090. Let's add another target group. This is new load balancer. The default port is, already forgot it, 32752. Let's go next. In the targets, I'm going to add all my Kubernetes clusters. And in the next version, this is actually going to be fully automatic. Okay, just a second. So if you don't see my screen, then we're going to send you the recording later. And just refresh maybe. Understand that my screen is shown as frozen. Okay. Okay. Again, so I'm going to describe to you. And let's go to load balancer edit listeners. In the edit listeners, I'm gonna create another listener. I'm gonna add a listener. We're gonna call it new LB. That's fine. 32752. That's my port. Next, let's add all the Kubernetes clusters. Okay, so happy to see it's back. So as you can see my Kubernetes cluster. Okay, I added all of the nodes. I'm gonna go finish. Okay, already it's the security group has like a hello world SG, which basically opens everything. I'm gonna take this one. I'm gonna point it to 9090. Okay, so the first question is a very relevant one. So what about persistent volumes? If persistent volumes are, if you don't know, Kubernetes runs on containers, and if you don't put a persistent volume onto a container, whatever written inside the container is gone when the container is gone or even moved between nodes. So you have to have some kind of persistent volume outside. There are two kinds of persistent volumes that we're able to support. The first one is based on EFS, and this is actually available right now. I think I'm going to have maybe a very short video about how we can do that. So right now you can go with persistent volumes based on our elastic file systems. And in the next version, I think the next couple of versions, we're going to have persistent volumes based on EBS. So you're just going to create volumes in your external storage or in Ceph. V5X is Ceph, and persistent volumes will be there out of the box. Okay, so another question I see is, what about day two operations? Valid question. In the next version along with persistent volumes. We're going to have also upgrade and maintaining of clusters, and you'll be able to upgrade as long as you have an engine, then you'll be able to upgrade from engine to engine. You know this feature already since it was introduced lately in for DBus. So you can upgrade DBus version. You will also be able to upgrade Kubernetes versions. Okay, so another question I see here is, what about the R? Again, just like in DBus, as you probably know, if you are migrating or absorbing volume, moving volume from one node into another, from one cluster into another cluster, you can actually move the DBus metadata along with it. So you can absorb that new volume as a DBus object. We're probably going to supply that again further down the roadmap of 2019. So actually, this wraps up all the questions for today. I want to thank you very much for joining us. Just like I said in the beginning of the webinar, most of you probably know me personally. And if you don't, I'll be happy to know you. Just drop me an email to my personal email. That's Liaz, Liaz, @Stratoscale.com. I would like to hear from you, comments, questions, and anything that you would like to hear from me regarding Kubernetes and the rest of our services. So thank you very much. I'll be seeing you in the next webinars.